Welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 2. In this lesson, you will hear the opinions of teachers and how they reflect on their scripted lessons. Remember, these interviews are personal opinions of individuals. You are still free to reflect and adapt to your own strengths. The purpose of these interviews are to stimulate your thinking process and for you to gain new perspective on how other teachers adapt and reflect. But before we have a look at the interviews, let's talk about the assignment applied to. In this assignment, you have to plan a lesson for your subject and grade. You must create your own lesson based on your strengths and ideas for improvement. Include your objectives, strategies or methods, materials that you want to use, and how you will apply your assessment. You should write a paragraph explaining how the adaptations contributed to your planning of this lesson. Then you have to deliver the planned lesson, which is applicable to the topic you are currently teaching to your learners, and send us proof of the lesson delivery via a short PowerPoint presentation that includes photos and short descriptions of what is taking place. Let's look at a short example of delivering proof via a PowerPoint presentation. Now we are going to look at interviews with two different teachers, all from different phases and different backgrounds, to hear their stories and how they adapt, deliver and reflect on their lessons.
My name is Dr. Charles Maswabi. I used to be a teacher at St. Andrew's School. I used to teach technology from grade 7 to grade 9, and then computer application technology grade 10 to grade 12.
My name is Lucille Cooper. I am the support teacher at St. Andrew's School and have been the support teacher for the past 30 years. I've learned how to think like a little child. I've learned how to think about what they think about.
Normally I would say I apply experiential learning in my classroom in a way that my teachings are more demonstrational, so that they can be able to be adapted by various students in the classroom.
It's very, very important to make the emotional contact with the learning material, especially for the learner, for the child who's learning. You cannot expect a child who has never even seen a kettle to understand the meaning of the word kettle, or even let alone learn to spell it.
I'm not someone who speaks for a long time, so basically that's how my teaching methods are adapted to short explanations followed by demonstrations and then classwork that students have to do in class, so that they can actually go through from one student to another during their classwork time.
There's one little boy whom I taught this year. I would know he would come in and all we would do is play with marbles. But the next day he'd come in and he'd say, I'm onto the computer, give me a book to read, and we would go and we would fly. And I think in that way I would a sigh of relief to say, yes, I'm somebody, I've meant something to somebody today.
Most of the time I use a whiteboard, and when I introduce the topic, I explain and give some real life examples of whatever the topic is based on and how they're going to apply it basically in the future in their studies or even in life. And then we also then go onto on the board. As I said, I do normally use demonstrations. Like now, for example, with engineering graphics, we have to show them step by step on how to do things on the board, so that they can be able to do it. You can't just talk and talk and talk and talk. Yeah.
Well, the first thing is paper and pencil. They haven't succeeded with paper and pencil, so you've got to think of something else. And when I discovered Number Shark and Word Shark, based on the Alpha and Omega Bev Hornsby list of words, it was as if a new light went on, because I could use the computer program to teach the words, then I could do those same set of words about 60 million times, because there are so many games and you're doing the same thing. So each time it's different. So your approach is different. Then eventually, when it's inculcated, when you've inculcated what you need to do, then you can say, oh, let's see, can we write it on the board? Can you write it on the carpet? Can you build it? Here, playing cards.
Yes, it does. It does, because like I said, I'm not someone who speaks a lot, so I really modify my planning in a manner that actually accommodates me, so that I prefer more student to be more hands-on than me talking for a long time. Yeah. Normally, if I ask questions, then you will have to do demonstrations. Like, for example, if I ask a question, okay, go and show us how you did question 1 on the board, so that you can see that. So basically, my question is like the how, and so that the student can be able to explain why they did what they did. Yeah.
I ask myself whether they can apply what I've taught. I think of one little boy in grade 2, little Callum Esterhazen, how after I taught the magic E, he could actually go to the board. On his book, he could write it, he could understand, and he could recognize it in a text. That's the best that I can do, when they can start using what I've taught.
I don't like interruptions. I like to explain something and get questions afterwards. That I could say maybe that's my weakness. And another thing, I'm not someone who shouts a lot, so I need people to pay attention when I'm talking. So, yeah.
And even another weakness would even be getting into a rut. An easy rut. Oh, this works. Or, come on, man, just get this in your head. A rut, yeah, as everybody else, when everybody gets into a rut.
That's basically, like I've said, my explanations are pretty short, and also do use a lot of demonstration, so that as I'm explaining, students are also doing their work, following after me as I'm doing something on the board. They also do it in their book, following me, and then afterwards I give them work, which gives me now a chance to, have a brief discussion with each and every one of them in the class.
Yeah, and so that's why I love workshops. I love going to places where I can learn, because then I'm inspired again, and I say, oh yeah, I was doing it right, or oh, yes, I was doing it terribly wrongly.
My strength, I think I'm an open person, especially towards my students. Yeah, I'm more easily approachable. So yeah, I think that's another thing that gives me the chance to be able to go around my students as they are working, talk to them, understand, did I explain well, do you understand the work properly? And another thing that what could be my strength is, I enjoy students to work, to help one another. Yeah, so that they know they can get help. If they can't understand what I'm saying, they can ask their peers to explain some work to them.
Oh, I'm patient. I can do things over and over, so I don't mind repeating things.
Yeah, basically, according to my own understanding, I think the CAPS document it's there to help us as teachers, to be able to be creative, to come with what we can come up with, maybe based on it, but not to be structurally as it is, because topics are different and subjects are different as well. For me to be able to, I need to understand, okay, where are my students? How am I going to be able to take them from this point to this point? So as I'm doing that, then which means then my introduction might not be the same introduction as the introduction that might be stipulated in the CAPS document.
I work on the CAPS document in the sense that I do the basics, and try and prepare people to apply the CAPS document. I can't just teach rigidly, then I would just be an ordinary teacher. So I must teach what has been lost in the course of time and then apply it.
I think that is one of the things. As a teacher, you need to know how your classes behaviors are, because it's a given thing. Classes are not the same. You might find, especially you find that in some classes you have more of the students that are much more matured or that are, gifted than the others, and the other class maybe you have those, not that they've been chosen to be like that, but maybe you find that majority in the other class maybe are the students that are more reserved, or so. It's very important to try and help them to be able to work. To some of them, you find that, for example, if you have students that are more gifted, those students, they prefer working, alone most of the time because they think others are wasting their time. And then you have to come to them as well and say, okay, listen, this working or helping others helps you this way as well. And also talk to the others also, saying, listen, when someone's helping you, you don't waste his time. It's very important. Make sure you understand, ask relevant questions, and all those things, so that at the same time or at the end of that lesson, see that all the students are getting their work done. Yeah. Sometimes you explain work in class and then you give work to students and you see that things are not going right here. So you, as a teacher, you have to go back and then say, okay, how can I, develop this lesson so that they can be able to understand? Maybe my explanation was maybe too advanced for them, or so they couldn't understand, or they couldn't bring my examples to what I was saying into context. So as a teacher, then I have to go back and say, okay, I think this lesson I have to repeat and see how I can do it, so that they are able to understand it.
At any given time, that will change, because the child's needs will determine what you need to do. So if I see Julian, for instance, is just wants to play marbles for the first 10 minutes, he'll play marbles. Then, Julian, come, that was our deal. You played marbles, let's go and work on the computer now. So there's a lot of bargaining, there's a lot of bribery, there's no corruption. But I think that is, I understand their needs, I think.
I hope you've enjoyed taking this journey with us. Equipped with your newly gained knowledge, you can now go and make a difference. All the best.